Lando Norris is briefly on 10 licence penalty points and only 2 from a Formula 1 race ban after the Austrian Grand Prix. Norris's situation will change slightly before the next event, but it's a tally he believes he's reached for stupid reasons, one that's earned him the support of Max Verstappen and prompted McLaren to call for a review of F1's licence penalty points system. All this followed the penalty Norris received for an incident with Red Bull's Sergio Perez early in an Austrian Grand Prix that featured some controversial stewards' decisions over wheel-to-wheel fights and much more. You can debate the various stewards' decisions we'll be discussing in this video in the comments section, where you can also let us know what you think about Norris's points tally and F1's penalty system as a whole. And whether you agree with the decisions in Austria and the situation Norris finds himself in or not, you can show some support for us by leaving a thumbs up at any point if you enjoy this video. Let's quickly cover the Norris incident and the penalty. Norris was defending second against Perez as the Red Bull tried to pass around the outside at turn 4 on the restart lap after an early safety car. Perez ended up running through the gravel and dropping to 10th, with the stewards ruling that Norris had forced him off the road and imposing a 5-second penalty. Serving that in his pit stop let Valtteri Bottas get ahead, and this ended up costing Norris a net second place when Lewis Hamilton faded with car damage. Unsurprisingly, Norris disagreed with the penalty and reckoned it soured a race in which McLaren was able to fight the two Mercedes drivers on merit. But the wider issue is that his penalty came with 2 licence points attached, which took his total to 10 in a 12-month period, too short of an automatic one-race ban. Norris will lose 2 penalty points before the next event starts, because it's almost 12 months exactly since he earned the first 2 points of his current tally. That will give him more leeway, but even getting so close to a ban is surprising for a driver who hasn't got anything close to a reputation for being dirty or careless. And as he will not lose any more points until November, Norris will still have to complete a large chunk of the season knowing he's only 4 points from a ban. Norris is in this situation because of the following penalties: 2 points for overtaking under yellows in FP1 at last year's Styrian Grand Prix, 3 points for not slowing for yellows in qualifying in Turkey last year, 3 points for not pitting under the red flag in qualifying at this year's Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and 2 points for forcing Perez off in Austria. Norris reckons licence penalty points should be reserved for dangerous incidents. It's a stance he also adopted earlier this year after Baku, where he and McLaren were upset at the penalty he was given for not diving into the pits when the red flag came out, with him pretty close to the pit lane entry. Addressing his licence points tally in Austria, Norris said, "Nothing I've done is dangerous. Maybe in some cases you deserve an on-track penalty because you've done something bad in terms of racing or made a mistake, but then you have things that people do every now and then which is purely dangerous. If you do something that will put people in danger, then I understand penalty points for a driver, and if that adds up you get a race ban. But for little things like this, it's just stupid. It's not what Formula 1 should be." F1's super licence penalty points system was adopted in 2014 as a means to track and, if necessary, ban repeat offenders for an accumulation of offences over a 12-month period. The idea was mooted after Romain Grosjean's ban for triggering the start crash at Spa in 2012, and everyone broadly agrees that this idea is great in principle. No driver has actually been banned since the system was enforced, although several have come close. But Norris's view is actually nothing new. It's been expressed by several drivers before, including last year when world champion Lewis Hamilton briefly approached the race ban for a series of procedural errors, not even racing incidents. So Norris finished his criticism of the system in the post-race press conference in Austria by saying he would expect and hope that other drivers would back him up. And sitting alongside him, race winner Verstappen answered that rhetorical question to say that he did. Addressing Norris, Verstappen said, "How many did you get? 2? So if you would have 6 of these incidents like today, if you get that 6 times, I don't think you deserve a ban. It's just not correct." Verstappen went on to say that the nature of the penalty point system, which dishes out 1 to 4 points for almost any incident that merits a formal punishment in a session, made it easy to rack up a high tally without ever doing anything serious. He said that if Norris got to 12 points because of his current offences, then he would not deserve a ban, and reiterated a previous call to look into whether the system needs changing. McLaren boss Andreas Seidel had a similar point of view. He said that for Norris to even be close to a ban after an incident like the one with Perez can't be the right thing. Seidel felt it was wrong to punish Norris and impact the on-track result in the first place, and added that contributing to the potential consequence of a race ban merited reviewing the entire system. Norris isn't the only driver with a high licence points tally after Austria. Ironically, the driver he was judged to have wronged, Perez, is now on 8 points because he had a pair of incidents with Charles Leclerc that doubled his licence points tally in one afternoon. One penalty was for slightly clumsily running into Leclerc and forcing him off at turn 4, while the other was after Leclerc tried to pass him around the outside into the fast turn 6 left-hander and ended up skating through the gravel. It means Perez will actually start the next event as close to a race ban as Norris, although one of his points will expire in mid-August and one more in mid-September, giving him a bit more leeway. While the drivers seem to be unified on this, the FIA doesn't share their opinion. The super licence point system has been defended by FIA race director Michael Masi, who claims that teams have had the chance to correct it and have not asked for any changes. He said it was no different to law-abiding citizens in many countries having to obey traffic laws on the road or risk losing their licences with too many offences. Masi disagreed that the points handed out are too harsh and said it was funny because the teams have a say in the scale of penalty points the stewards have to work from, and there'd been no push for the system to be changed this year. He also suggested it's not something the FIA has any interest in changing of its own accord, so will require teams to lobby for it through the proper channels. The Austrian Grand Prix was actually a bumper event for penalty points being dished out. In fact, the list is so long, we're probably about to pass out reading the list out. Sebastian Vettel got 1 for impeding Fernando Alonso in qualifying, Antonio Giovinazzi got 2 for overtaking during a safety car period in the race, Lando Norris got 2 for his incident with Perez, while Perez got 4 for 2 separate incidents with Leclerc. Yuki Tsunoda got 2, 1 each for crossing the white line at pit lane entry twice during the race, Kimi Raikkonen got 2 for causing a late collision with Sebastian Vettel, Nicholas Latifi got 3 for not respecting double wave yellow flags, and Nikita Mazepin got 3 for the same offence. When you look at the basic offence each driver has committed, you could argue there's nothing untoward there. There's certainly no issue with clamping down on things like Raikkonen carelessly firing Vettel into the boonies and then Latifi and Mazepin not respecting the yellow flags that followed that incident. But even before you get into debating whether the Norris-Perez, Perez-Leclerc or Perez-Leclerc situations were simply racing incidents, let alone meriting penalty points for the driver deemed at fault, that list exposes the oddities within the system. Giovinazzi getting 2 licence points for pitting under the safety car and accidentally overtaking Alonso while heading into the pit lane as a result seems a weird additional punishment for such a small oversight, especially when it already came with a 5-second time penalty. Likewise, Tsunoda crossing the white line at pit lane entry was careless, but he got a 5-second penalty for each offence, so are 2 licence points in total really necessary for that? Compare that to instances of drivers speeding in the pit lane over the course of the weekend. Lance Stroll was only 1.3 km an hour over the limit in the race but got a 5-second time penalty for it and no licence penalty points, while Raikkonen was 8.5 km per hour over the pit lane speed limit in practice, and all that got was a €900 fine for his team. That's chump change in Formula 1 despite the speed limit being there explicitly for safety reasons and being the most relatable to the real-world driver's licence point system that Masi referred to. So when you have actual safety offences not even being punished with the licence point system, but things like Vettel helplessly impeding Alonso in qualifying getting a licence penalty point, it just shows the system is unfit for purpose. It's an example of over-regulation, where an idea that is fine in principle has run out of control in reality. But what do you think? Can Norris or Perez for that matter have any issues with their total points tallies? And is it wrong for drivers to end up risking a ban for minimal offences? Or do you think that everything we've covered in this video is actually F1's system working quite well? Let us know in the comments, give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and subscribe if you haven't already to join us again for the future.